Now I have to count the letters.
This is rigid Kostelanetz.
1, 2,
I have
3, 4,
laryngitis.
5, 6, 7,
But thanks to the wonders of technology, my voice is amplified into something you can hear. I'm with John Cage. He's just beginning a new piece. What is it called, John?
40, 41. Just a second.
Okay.
42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56. I was counting the letters in this line in Finnegans Wake. The text will be called Writing for the Third Time Through Finnegans Wake.
So therefore it follows. Something for the second time and for the first time.
Right.
Okay.
Well, the first time didn't have that in the title. It just said Writing Through Finnegans Wake. Actually, the title of this third one may change because I'm not going through it. What I'm doing is, through the chance operations, landing here and there in it.
Okay.
Coming down on phrases, words, syllables, and letters, but not writing or riding or walking through it, but flying over it and landing here and there on it.
How did you do the first one?
The first one I made mesostics. You know what an acrostic is?
Right.
The name down the edge, but a mesostic is the name down the middle.
Okay, which you've done before in
Right.
the M book.
Right.
I've read the mesostics from Merce Cunningham.
Right, and then I made them for the name of Marcel Duchamp and Mark Tobey and so on. But these are on the name James Joyce. And this is the first page of the first text. And this number 3 refers to the first page of Finnegans Wake, which is page 3.
Okay.
And this phrase, Roth with 2-1, Nath and Joe, includes the word Nath and Joe, which has a J in it.
Right.
And that J doesn't have an A after it, because the A belongs on the second line.
Because it's James,
Right.
down the middle, James.
And if we go to the first page of...
We're on page 203 now. I'll write it down.
I have it over here.
Oh, you have it there too, okay.
This first page, this is the first J, word with the J on the first page that doesn't have an A after it. I think it's actually the first J in the book.
Seems to be, yeah.
You know how you can tell? You turn the page upside down, and then if you look for the dots, you can catch the I's and the J's that way very easily. Because the J's dip below the line, whereas the I's don't.
Okay.
I had a friend named Hazel Dryce, who was a fantastic proofreader, and she proofread The Leaves of Grass of Walt Whitman, which she had bound for the Grabhorn Press in San Francisco. She proofread it upside down and backwards.
Really?
That means, and this is something I think very close to my work, that means that we do very good work when we don't know what we're doing.
Okay. I understand that.
Hmm?
That comes into a lot of your work. Sure.
Right.
Except that you're a very good proofreader too. I know because you proofread my book about you, and you found mistakes that I didn't find.
No, but we're all rather poor at proofreading. Anyway,
I know, you're better.
Anyway, here's Roth with 2-1, Nath and Joe, and then my second line is A, and you see I skipped the word rot, I leave it out.
Right.
And A is the first word that has an A that doesn't have an M after it.
It's A all by itself.
All by itself.
Letter A. Okay.
Then I leave out peck of pause, and here's the M, malt.
Right.
M-A-L-T doesn't have an E in it.
So it can go next. So now
And
you have J-A-M.
then comes Gem, J-H-E-M.
Now you have the E of James, J-A-M-E.
Right, and then S is in Shen.
Shen.
Then we have the brothers, Jem and Shen.
So you've pulled them out and made them. The brothers are a constant motif in Finnegans
Wake, right.
And so they are introduced in the opening paragraph of your redoing of Finnegans
Now we
Wake.
look for the next J. And here's the first thunderclap, by the way, the 100-letter word.
Right. But there's no J in there.
No, we don't get a J until we come to this marvelous word here, shoot.
Right.
P-F-T-J-S-C-H-U-T-E, shoot.
Which sounds like air going down a chute.
Right.
Seems to
The
combine.
falling of Humpty Dumpty.
Okay.
The shoot of Finnegan, he fell off a ladder, you remember?
Oh, what does it say? So falling. It's a falling.
Shoot of Finnegan.
It's a neologism for falling.
And then here comes Humpty Dumpty. You see that the Humpty Hillhead. That's the Y of Joyce.
Okay. I should point out the O came from of Finnegan, the next word. So it's shoot of Finnegan.
Right.
The O comes from the O there. Why did you use of Finnegan rather than just of?
I was so delighted to get Finnegan.
Ah, you made a decision of taste.
Well, you see, I'm not dealing with chance here, and I have the choice. I gave myself the liberty of going 44 syllables, characters to the left.
I see.
To the left, and 44 to the right, so that the name would come down the middle.
And taking out material from the text of Finnegan's Wake. Okay.
And in some lines, you see, here's another page. I made a long line and kept quite a lot.
Right. Okay.
But there was a tendency to omit, and in that way to arrive at a different rhythm than was in the original. Though all of my words are words from the Wake itself.
Okay.
Anyway, that the Humpty Hillhead of himself, and you see we don't have any C there. Here we have it now. Pardon me, is at the knockout. You see we had to skip practically a whole line.
To get the next C.
Because the original reads this way, that the Humpty Hillhead of himself promptly sends an unquiring one well to the west in quest of his tumty-tum toes. And their upturned pike pointing place is at the knockout in the park.
So there's the C in the park. Knock. The C comes up and knock.
Right.
Okay.
It's at the knockout, and the E is in the park.
So you've in effect completed one mesostic there. James, Joyce.
And we leave out the rest of the sentence, which is where oranges have been laid to rust upon the green since Devlin's first loved Livy.
Okay. So what you've then done is gone through the entire Wake, making up mesostics under the name James Joyce.
Then what I'm going to do, Richard, can you see this? I've left the punctuation out.
Right.
But I've distributed it by chance operations on the page, like an explosion.
Okay.
So that as you read this and you see the punctuation omitted in the air, you can imagine it where you like. You can replace it where you wish. And I also have it oriented according to the 12 points of the clock.
Which is to say it isn't all horizontal. The exclamation point is tilted slightly, like Pisa.
And you know that the night hours are important in Finnegans Wake.
Sure, sure.
So that's the first one.
Okay.
Anyway, my editor at Wesleyan University found that text, which is about 125 pages, found it too long and boring. And he said I should make a shorter text. And I didn't want to shorten that because that one is complete.
It's complete, okay.
It's like Schoenberg said, a long work can't be cut, because if it is cut, it will be a long work which was cut.
Right.
So I wanted to make a new work which wasn't cut, but which was shorter. And what I did was to take a further discipline, keeping the ones I had of the James, Joyce, but keeping an index. I kept actually a card index. I should have it here to show you, but I don't. And once I used a syllable, I put it in the card index.
A syllable measured how?
Well, like in the word Nath and Joe,
Okay.
I assume that the syllable is Joe, that has the J in it.
Why is it Nath the syllable?
Because it doesn't have the J.
Oh, the syllable that's on the axis.
Right.
Okay. On the mesostic axis.
So the Joe, J-O-E, represents the J of James,
Okay.
which I don't identify with the J of Joyce. I keep it as the J of James.
Right.
A represents the A of James. M, Malt represents the M, and may never do it again.
Never do it again in the entire piece.
In the entire work.
Okay.
So the result was, following that discipline, what was 125 pages here became something like 39 pages here. You can see that the word just, for instance, which recurs and recurs in the Wake, only gets used twice here, once for the J of James and once for the J of Joyce, because just has neither A nor O after it.
Okay. Right.
I did one thing that was, again, a question of taste. I knew from having written that the final mesostic could be this one, just a whisk of pity, a cloud in peace and silence. And I admit to being very fond of that. Somehow it's very evocative.
Very beautiful.
And so I saved the word just, representing Joyce, for the end. And even though it could have come up earlier, I didn't let it.
You put it in your card file and made sure it didn't work out that way. It seems to me that one characteristic of your work is always that, yes, chance is the basic principle of doing things, but certain decisions of taste appear throughout and govern a lot, or govern quite a bit.
Well, they govern, for instance, at the beginning, the decision to work with Finnegans.
Which is a very key decision.
Yes. I think that I'm actually glad that I made that decision, because I think that living in this century, we live in a very deep sense in the time of Finnegans Wake. Don't you think so?
Oh, sure.
And there I was, here I am rather, 66 years old almost, and I had never read Finnegans Wake through. I had read parts of it, but this process of working with it and writing with it has gotten me deeply engaged in it, and I've not only read it once, I've read it many times. And as I pointed out to you, sometimes upside down.
And you're always discovering new things
Right.
in Finnegans Wake.
Right.
As you're always going to discover new things in your own redoing of Finnegans Wake.
Right.
Because you've kept to the basic richness and the multiplicity of the text.
Trying.
Now, is this a work of literature or work of music?
Well, this is whether we pay attention to it as literature or whether we pay attention to it as music. And we're capable, that's one of the lovely things about being a human being, we're capable of turning one way or another. We can turn ourselves toward literature, or we can turn ourselves toward music. And one could take, for instance, a text and say, I sang it to you.
Okay.
Then would you say, is that literature? You would rather think that it was music if I sang it. Actually, reading is a process that takes place in time.
Right.
So that literature has an affinity for music because they both take place in time. If the literature sits, so to speak, on the page and waits for you to come to it and doesn't itself move, as some concrete poetry does, then we might say, well, it's not having this affinity for music, it's having an affinity for painting.
Are you going to publish this?
Certainly. This is actually, this little one is going to be in my next book from Wesleyan, and the big one is going to be published by the James Joyce Quarterly. And the two of them together are being published in a limited edition printed by the Steinhauer Press, that is part of what was called Unpublished Editions, but now has another title. I think it's North American Press or something like that, that includes a number of writers like Jackson McLough and Dick Higgins, Philip Corner, Pauline Oliveros.
Are you going to use, what will the edition look like? Will it be multicolored?
What do you mean, multicolored?
I mean, are you going to just use black and white type? Or?
No, it's going to be black and white, but the punctuation, as I told you, is going to illustrate each page. It will be on fine paper. The Wesleyan edition and the James Joyce Quarterly edition will be reduced in size and not on fine papers.
Okay. Are you going to make a record of it as well?
I think that this is naturally something that one wants to do now, and Joyce himself wanted to do that and did,
Just
make
briefly.
records of parts of Finnegans Wake. But we more and more like to hear something rather than just read it. On the other hand, the expenses of our technology, even though we have all their benefits, the expenses are still very great. And now that everything is so expensive, it's more possible that we will all eat dinner rather than listen to records of my reading.
Because it seems to me the question that's constantly come up with reference to your own work is whether or not you've become a composer who writes, or since you've done so much writing recently, a poet who also composes.
Well, this morning I was writing music, And this afternoon I'm showing you how I'm starting the third time.
So you set up an existence by which you can do one time, one another time, and they're simply options in your own
Well, it
life.
seems reasonable. One can also go to sleep.
True enough. Okay, then that's how that one was done. Now, how's the new one being done?
The new one, is not going through the book, but is, as I told you, landing on it. So it's a mix of phrases, words, syllables, and letters, and I omit sentences.
Okay.
That's perhaps, again, a question of taste. And if I kept sentences, I might come out with something like muro, which is music thorough. And this, instead of coming from Finnegans' way, comes from the Journal of
Which was in your third book.
Thorough,
Which is in your
yes.
book M.
And this includes sentences. So it has sentences, phrases, words, syllables, and letters. And it produces a sound like this. Sparrows sit a grosbeak, betrays itself by that peculiar squeak-are-ye effect of slightest tinkling measures. Soundness implisa, we hear. Now, empty words...
Which is an effect of prose.
A kind of prose, yes.
As Finnegans' Wake is a prose, too.
Now, empty words begins this way, and it doesn't have any sentences, and yet it comes from the same material that Muro came from, and it goes this way. Not at evening, right can see, suited to the morning hour. Trucks risqua, measured, tasi, ta, is, svoi, w, dei, stur, ois. And that's what I'm going to do with
So
the
you've used their phrases, words,
syllables.
and letters. Okay.
That first section that I just read to you has phrases, words, and letters.
Okay.
Now, if you have just those things, 1, 2, 3, and 4, phrases, words, syllables, and letters, you can use them singly, 1, 2, 3, 4, or in combinations of 2, phrases and
Which is
words.
to say, only singly, only phrases, only words.
Right. Or you can use phrases and words, or phrases and syllables, or phrases and letters. Or you can use words and syllables, or words and letters. This is the principle of permutation.
Sure, sure.
Or syllables and letters, or phrases, words, and syllables, or phrases, words, and letters, or words, syllables, and letters, or all 4, phrases, words, syllables, and letters. That means you have 14 possibilities. A little bit before we began talking, and I began this, I found through the chance operations, and this is the printout of the I Ching. I no longer toss the coins. A young man named Ed Coburn at the University of Illinois, when I was doing harpsichord, programmed a simulation of tossing 3 coins 6 times, and I use the printout now instead of the coins.
So it's all coded. It's a code.
Right. And then I form questions. Like now I have a question dealing with the number 14. Which of these permutations am I going to involve myself in? And we got, as you recall, we got the answer that led to words and letters. And then our next question was, how many words and letters are we looking for? And the answer was 28.
Right.
Then the question was,
So
which...
you put 28, you made 28 lines there.
28 places,
to
yeah.
be filled. Okay.
Then I had to find out which were words and which were letters.
Okay.
And that's a question having to do with the number 2, so that the table for 2 in relation to 64
Tells you that.
is 1 through 32 is 1, 33 through 64 is 2.
So I just say if you get the number, any number between 1 and 32, it equals
I take
1.
a word,
Okay.
and the other way I get letter. And so I've gone through here, and I have www, letter, word, letter, etc.
Okay.
Now I know what I'm doing. And then the next question is, what part of Finnegans Wake am I looking in? And here are the parts of Finnegans Wake. The first part about the father has 8 chapters.
Okay.
And these are the page numbers, and these are the numbers of pages. This is the second part about the mother. 41, 49, 74, 17. This is the third part about the children. 26, 45, 81, 36. And this is the last part which returns to the first. 36. So there's 17 parts. And I asked that question, of course, in this case now for this first part of words and letters, I ask it 28 times. Which part are we in? And then which page of that part are we on? And then which line am I going to? And it turns out that the full pages have 36 lines.
And then I count. Decisions are made by consulting.
The I Ching, right.
Sure.
And then I count the words or letters as the case may be, and I finally pinpoint a word.
Which you pull out, or extract from the wake.
Or I pinpoint a letter. And in this case, I'm keeping a table of what pages and lines it comes from, because the words in Finnegans Wake are so invented that there might come up later on some question as to their spelling.
Okay.
And I can refer back.
That's a very shrewd, very shrewd way of keeping track of Joyce's neologisms. Easy to misspell, but easier to miscopy.
Right. Now when the program just now, or when our conversation just now began, that's a question. Is this a conversation or is it a program? What do you think? It's according, as I said, don't you think, according to how we pay attention?
Okay, to what you want it to be in your life.
Right. Anyway, I was looking for a letter, which is on page 203, and when you asked me the first question, was it music or was it literature, I was counting the letters, and there are 56 letters in this line. And now I want to know which letter I put in the text.
Okay.
So my next number here is the number 17. And I turn to the table for 56 because there are 56 letters.
Okay.
And 1 through 24 equals 1 through 24. So it will be the 17th letter. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, which is an I. And since it's surrounded by consonants, there's no question about it. I just plain take the I.
If there was another vowel, you might take the other vowel.
If there were another vowel, I would then ask, shall I have them both, or shall I have just one of them?
And what would govern your choice?
The I Ching again.
Okay.
The reason I did that was because of the vowels, really, more than the consonants, because the diphthongs, are important among vowels.
Okay. So what you've done here is developed a compositional method by which lots of choices are made from you by consulting the I Ching, your chart here that you made before, the chart here, from which you thereby extract words from Finnegans Wake, a text you chose by choice, just as by choice you chose the I Ching, to put them in a group here. Now what is it going to look like in the end?
What will it look like in the end? Well, I don't know exactly, but...
Let me reverse it. How long will it take you to finish?
I have the habit now, which I see no reason for breaking. I have the habit of making a text of this kind until I have completed 4,000 events.
Okay.
And this first business of words and letters has 28 events. And I've now, in an hour, done 8 of them. So you could divide 8 into 4,000, and you could give me an estimate.
50 hours. 50 hours.
Oh, many more.
500 hours.
Many more.
500 hours.
But you see, I don't know. I'm doing other things, like this morning I was writing music, so I don't know exactly when it would be through. But it's the sort of work that I can take with me, and when I'm waiting in line or taking or riding in bus or subway or on a plane, whatnot, I can continue this work.
Uncovering the decisions that the method tells you to take, to draw from the text.
Right.
To make the work.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. So it's all right in here.
Have we done it?